Welcome to this presentation of ESCAP's Digital and Sustainable Regional Integration Index and Indicator Framework. This is the very first time we present the framework, so it's very new. We call it DigiSRII 1.0, and I will be focusing quite a bit on the digital integration aspects of DigiSRII 1.0. So DigiSRII 1.0 was developed as part of a UN Development Account project initiated in 2018. So that project focused specifically on measuring, monitoring, and improving performance in regional integration in 3 world regions, right? Africa, the Middle East, and also Asia and the Pacific. The objective of the project is to provide new and improved tools for policymakers and researchers to evaluate the performance of economies and facilitate cross-economic comparison. So DigiSRII is an attempt to bring together the various dimensions of regional integration, taking fully into account the growing importance of digital and sustainable development. Rather than emphasizing methodological issues related to developing the index and aggregating very different indicators, the work focuses on developing a global indicator framework for digital and sustainable regional integration, really inspired by the indicator framework established to monitor progress on implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And the work very much builds upon existing work of ECA and ADB to the extent possible. So there are a number of principles underpinning the development of DigiSRII and related tools. Possibly the most important one is to recognize that policymakers in different economies and regions may not attach the same importance to the many dimensions of regional integration. Our work also recognizes that there is no agreement on what is the optimal level of regional integration, and that being the most regionally integrated economy may not always be the most desirable outcome for all governments. To take just one example, the COVID-19 pandemic may have a more negative impact on the most regionally integrated economy. At the same time, an economy where COVID-19 is already spreading may be able to recover faster if it is more regionally integrated, as it may have greater access to relevant medical goods and services. As such, DigiSRII is put together using a very simple set of aggregation techniques, making the index as transparent as possible and providing a basis for policy analysts and makers to develop their own version using the underlying data as they see fit. We adopt a matrix structure for DigiSRII, enabling us to fully integrate the sustainable development dimensions of regional integration policies. DigiSRII builds on existing work on regional integration indices, notably those by ECA and ADB, which proposes 6 dimensions. So in DigiSRII, we add a 7th dimension on digital integration, while sustainability components are added to all 7 dimensions. So as a result, every dimension is made of a series of conventional regional integration indicators and a series of sustainable regional integration indicators. This enables policymakers to monitor to what extent they are taking into account sustainable development when progressing along each of the 7 dimensions. However, this also makes the index more data intensive. So considering both data availability and the need to encourage economies to identify and resolve data gaps they face in understanding where they stand in regional integration in a comprehensive, we developed a comprehensive and simplified version of DigiSRII. The comprehensive version, which is more data intensive, is based on no less than 52 underlying indicators. Right? As a result, it covers only 13 of the 53 regional ESCAP member states. However, the simplified version is based on a subset of only 42 indicators for which more data is available. So we can cover 24 economies in Asia and the Pacific, thanks to this approach, or nearly about half of the UN ESCAP membership. Sustainable development is mainstreamed into the index by adding sustainable development focused indicators to conventional indicators in each of the 7 dimensions that I mentioned earlier. The sustainable development focused indicators emphasize how regional integration along each dimension is pursued, taking into account in particular the need for inclusivity and environmental protection. While the Sustainable Development Indicators are typically not linked to specific SDG targets in this first version of DigiSRII, they can be linked to 12 or more of the 17 SDGs, in particular SDG 8 on decent work for all. This table gives examples of conventional and sustainable indicators in DigiSRII. To the extent possible, for each conventional indicator, we try to build a corresponding sustainable indicator. For example, while a conventional indicator for trade and investment integration is the overall intensity of intra-regional trade flows, the corresponding sustainable indicator is the intensity of international trade flows in environmental goods. DigiSRII really measures the overall depth of regional integration for Asia and the Pacific, with the reference region comprised of 52 ESCAP member states for which data is available. As shown in this figure, the 2 versions of DigiSRII provide broadly consistent results, with Singapore, Japan, and Republic of Korea achieving the highest levels of digital and sustainable regional integration, while only 24 countries at most are covered by the index for the period 2010 to 2017. When you go at the level of the sub-indices or individual indicators, there is often data for many more countries. This chart shows the performance of the Asia-Pacific region as a whole, with sub-index values calculated at every node of the DigiSRII index structure. The numbers in red are the index value for the period 2010-2013, and in blue for the most recent period 2014-17. The current level of integration, based on the latest data, is reflected by the green colors of the bars. The darker the color, the more integration. The size of the bars, or boxes, show how much things change between 2010 and 2017. A big bar or box indicates a lot of changes have taken place between 2010 and 2017, and a small bar or box shows that little progress has been made in deepening regional integration in this particular area. As you can see, the Asia-Pacific region's performance in regional integration varies widely across the 7 dimensions of conventional and sustainable integration. On average, infrastructure and regulatory cooperation are found to be the most important factors for conventional integration in the Asia-Pacific. Because of investment in infrastructure and proactive free trade agreement negotiation strategies, the same 2 dimensions are also those that where most progress have been made, driving the deepening of regional integration between 2010 and 2017. In contrast, the Asia-Pacific region's performance in terms of movement of people remains underwhelming, with a low score and limited improvement during the period. The results indicate that people movement is the most restricted dimension of economic integration in this region. In terms of sustainable regional integration, the DigiSRII indicator framework suggests that the region is doing best in terms of sustainable finance and infrastructure. The region seems to be able to manage its financial integration prudently and to enable broad and inclusive access to infrastructure overall. As a result, sustainable finance and sustainable infrastructure are the biggest contributors towards the region's overall level of sustainable regional integration, based on the most recent data available. In terms of changes between 2010 and 2017, improvement in inclusive access to infrastructure, as well as participation in the digital economy, have driven progress in sustainable regional integration in Asia and the Pacific. In contrast, trade and investment integration as well as regional value chain integration, have not significantly deepened for the region between 2010 and 2017, both from a conventional and sustainable regional integration perspective. The slide here shows a comparative analysis of the progress made in conventional versus sustainable regional integration. The analysis here is based on the comprehensive index framework for which 13 economies have data available for all indicators included across all dimensions. Singapore clearly leads in terms of conventional regional integration. It is the top performer in the region, followed by Malaysia and Republic of Korea. Vietnam is found to have made the fastest progress in deepening conventional regional integration over time, enabling it to move from below the regional average in the period 2010-2013 to above it in the most recent period. Turkey, Laos, Russian Federation, and Pakistan fall into the group of least integrated economies according to conventional indicators. Turning to sustainable regional integration, Japan becomes the most successful case of regional integration in the region, from just being an average performer when only conventional regional integration is considered. Singapore and the Republic of Korea remain among the top performers in the region, highlighting their stellar performance in ensuring sustainable development as part of their regional integration strategies. China and Philippines perform considerably better in sustainable integration in comparison to conventional regional integration, as do Australia, Russian Federation, and Turkey. In contrast, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam show low levels of sustainable regional integration. Vietnam, however, is one of the countries, with China, Japan, and Thailand, that made the most progress between 2010 and 2017 in advancing sustainable regional integration. Taking a closer look at the digital economy dimension of DigiSRII, regional digital economy integration is envisioned as entailing the freer flow of digital goods and services across regional economies. On that basis, digital economy integration is measured using trade intensity in ICT products and use of internet to make purchases. In addition, government policies relating to trade in ICT products, as well as government regulations on the flow of digital goods and services, are considered. As for corresponding sustainable component and indicators of digital economy integration, the focus is on indicators that measures how secure the digital infrastructure is and how inclusive this access to digital services is, including in terms of gender balance. Taking a look at the data, the Asia-Pacific region's performance in digital economy integration varies considerably across countries. The DigiSRII Dimensional Index reveals a clear gap between developed and developing economies in this area. Asia-Pacific economies exhibit a consistent trend of improvement in overall digital economy integration between 2010 and 2017. Singapore places as the most regionally integrated in the digital economy, followed closely by the Republic of Korea, New Zealand, and Australia. More generally, the results highlight that advanced economies in East and Northeast Asia, as well as Southeast Asia and the Pacific, are among the most regionally integrated in the digital economy. On the other hand, ASEAN least developed economies, along with South and Southwest Asian economies, are the least digitally integrated. Asia-Pacific digital economy integration also varies significantly across the indicators that make up the digital integration dimension of DigiSRII. The results indicate that, on average, reducing tariffs on ITC goods or ICT goods and having mobile accounts are the most important factors for conventional digital economy integration. On the other hand, it is clear that the region has room for improvement in regulatory harmonization to support digital trade in the region, as well as in terms of boosting actual production and trade in ICT goods and utilizing e-commerce platforms. From the perspective of sustainable integration in the digital economy, The Asia-Pacific region is found to have made immense progress in expanding women's access to financial or mobile money accounts between 2010 and 2017, as well as in increasing household access to internet. These indicators emerge as the most important contributors for regional digital economy integration. In contrast, access to secure internet servers remain a major stumbling block for deepening sustainable regional integration in the digital economy. Most of the indicators included in the DigiSRII Digital Economy Integration Index are based on relatively easily available secondary data. However, one of the indicators featured, the Digital Trade Regulatory Similarity Index, is based on data that is not readily available and has to be collected often directly from national legislation or intergovernmental agreement. So ESCAP has worked with a consultant to develop it for 2017. The indicator evaluates how similar the digital policies of different countries of the region are based on certain countries for which data could be collected. So some of the data elements are from the Digital Restrictiveness Index developed by ACP in Europe, but that institute is no longer updating the data set. While it would take another presentation to explain this indicator in detail, let me mention that this indicator is based on 11 different policy and regulatory areas that are considered relevant for digital trade integration, as you can see on the slide. So the figure illustrates the overall regional regulatory similarity in 2017 by Asia-Pacific economy, for which data is available, right? So 13 countries, as I mentioned earlier. The index shows that advanced economies led by New Zealand, Singapore, and Japan tend to be regionally integrated because of their relatively open and harmonized regulatory framework relating to digital trade policies. On the other end of the spectrum, important developing economies, in particular China, India, and Vietnam, tend to have relatively restricted digital trade policy ecosystems. Let me stop here with this quick introduction of the first version of ESCAP Digital and Sustainable Regional Integration Index, DigiSRII. This is version 1.0, and what this means is that we see this as an ongoing incremental work. We intend to develop, revise, and improve versions in the future in collaboration with the other UN regional commissions, as we currently do, but also with ADB and other willing partners. Regional integration is a multi-dimensional endeavor, and it is important to ensure that it takes place in a way that is consistent with the Sustainable Development Goals. The rapid growth of the digital economy also adds a new and important digital dimension to regional integration, which we intend to continue to work on. Clearly, lack of data remains a serious impediment. Even the simplified version of DigiSRII only covers 24 countries, or slightly less than half of ESCAP members, because of missing data. While individual indicators and some of the sub-indices cover more countries, all countries should take steps to collect and make more data available as a basis for sound evidence-based policy making and benchmarking. This is particularly urgent when it comes to digital and sustainable regional integration indicators. Support from ADB and other development partners in this area would be important. Based on the experience gained with this project so far, we believe that it is important to keep the indices we build in support of policymaking sufficiently simple and transparent. Our efforts will focus increasingly on developing a global regional integration indicator framework and using it to build the capacity of countries to tap into the framework to easily generate regional integration indices that better meet their needs and objectives. This is what DigiSRII was built for, and we will pilot test the framework next week during a first capacity building workshop taking place online thanks to COVID-19. So looking ahead, new and alternative data sources will be continuously explored to support the further development of DigiSRII and this regional integration indicator framework. we look forward to collaboration. Thank you very much.